Wait, China has what? Hey guys, Britt here. Welcome to End Times Bible Prophecy. Well, China is at the forefront of a revolution in warfare. It's a revolution that promises to transform the battlefield and, I believe, ultimately fulfill Bible prophecy. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at this new technology China has introduced to the battlefield that, quite frankly, I think most people are going to find unimaginable. But guys, it is real. But first, I want to take a look at this right here, just as a reminder, later tonight, so on the YouTube channel, ETBP with Britt Gillette, End Times Bible Prophecy with Britt Gillette. If you click on the live tab, you will see a link there for the Prophecy Roundtable later tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Usually they start at 7. This one starts at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But make sure to join us there. It'll be a lot of the usual cast. So we'll have John Haller there, Scott Townsend, Patrick Wood, myself. And this time we're going to have David Bowen with us as well. So make sure to join us there at 7:30. Also, I encourage you to check out this series right here. This is part 1. I think part 2 just dropped a few hours ago on Scott Townsend's Substack. So this is on, again, AI becoming a companion to people. And he says, we need to be paying attention to this. AI companion apps make 3 enticing promises: friendship, emotional support, and constant availability. Yet each of these promises fundamentally contradicts how God designed relationships to work. So this is in depth on how AI is really going to transform human life in the time really before Jesus comes, because this is just a sign that Jesus is coming back. But I'm going to pin a link to this as well as tonight's roundtable live stream at the top of the comments so that you can check this out. Again, I highly encourage you to check out this series on Scott Townsend's Substack. And of course, Scott also is the inspiration for the video we're going to look at here, because he sent a link about Chinese bird drones. Yes, you heard that right. And yes, they are real. So let's take a look at this article right here. It says China's new bird drones are too real to spot. They flap, spy, and strike like nature, but they're weaponized. So it says a flock of birds soars quietly over a city skyline. They seem ordinary, perhaps magpies or gulls, but a closer look reveals something uncanny. Their wings flap with precision, their formation is too exact, and their silence is unsettling. These are not birds, they're machines, unmanned aerial vehicles designed to mimic nature with such fidelity that the line between the organic and the artificial vanishes. In an era where surveillance cameras are expected and drones buzz audibly overhead, China's latest military innovation, and in a second we'll look at it, it's really not their latest military innovation. This is not brand new. But it says China's latest military innovation is rewriting the rules of invisibility. At the cutting edge of this shift is a new generation of ornithopters, bird-like drones that not only look and move like real birds, and we'll look at one in just a moment, but can spy, infiltrate, and even strike without ever alerting their targets. From 90-gram magpie replicas to eagle-sized drones armed with micro-munitions, these machines mark a leap in stealth warfare so profound it feels like science fiction turned into strategic reality. But what happens when warfare no longer looks like warfare, when the sky above could hide not just predators, but programmable ones? And I'm not sure that if this is a rendering or an actual shot of a real ornithopter. I'm having a hard time pronouncing that. But it says, modern military surveillance has long relied on technological superiority, but China's ornithopter drones introduce a subtler, more insidious strategy: disappearance in plain sight. By replicating the flapping flight patterns of birds through advanced biomimetic engineering, these drones don't just resemble nature, they behave like it. This isn't a case of stylized camouflage or aerodynamic tweaking. It's full-blown biological imitation where every motion, silhouette, and wing beat is calibrated to pass for a living creature. Guys, we've talked about this for years. We're seeing this come to fruition. We've talked about drone swarms that mimic bees, drone swarms that mimic flocks of birds, schools of fish, and we're starting to see these things come. We're still in the early moments, but it won't take long to scale up on these. So let's take a look at this right here. This is from the Defense Post from almost a year ago. China unveils military spy drones disguised as birds, and here's an example of one right here held in the hand of this person for this demonstration video. And notice here it says, it replicates the wing flapping motion of a bird in flight, making it virtually indistinguishable from real birds at a distance. And here we're going to look at just an example of what that looks like in practice, because it does look like a bird, sort of clunky and moving around. So to the naked eye, you look at this and you think, well, that's a bird, but it can be engaged in surveillance. A whole flock of those might look on radar like a real flock of birds, and maybe they're exploding munitions or something of that nature. So, guys, this is the beginnings of a completely new era of warfighting. Because over time, what we just saw with that single bird flapping away, looking like a bird, right? That single drone flapping away, appearing like a bird that can blend into its surroundings, well, that's going to be joined by dozens of additional drones that look like birds, mimic the biological reality of birds, and they'll be connected to each other through AI. They'll be able to operate as a flock would, and it will be, again, indistinguishable to human beings looking at it. So that we'll have to come up with new radar techniques to detect these types of incoming drones. Because imagine for a moment, an inauguration, an outdoor event, a speaking engagement by a political candidate. How do you guard against a flapping bird coming into the area, maybe exploding, a suicide drone that looks like a bird? There's all sorts of security implications with this just on an individual level, much less a military level, but it's not just birds. Let's take a look at this right here. This is from 3 years ago. So imagine what technology they have now. This isn't a fish. That's a drone, guys. That is the underwater drone named RoboFish, right? So we're seeing an era where we're able to create these biomimetic type technologies that mimic the biology around us, the world around us. Therefore, they blend in and camouflage with that, but they also can act in decentralized fashions. And that has enormous implications for warfighting as these are implemented. Because, again, let's take a look at this article right here. I'll pin a link to this at the top of the comments as well. We put this out back in March, so a little over 3 months ago. It's titled, "The World is About to Change Forever, and Most People Have No Idea What Is Coming." And in that, we talked about MIT announcing fast and agile robotic insects that could someday, aid in mechanical pollination, right? So they'll help us to grow crops, right? But they can also be weaponized, guys. Bug-sized bot was able to fly 100 times longer than prior versions. So we're seeing enormous strides in the ability to mimic nature. It says here, inspired by the anatomies of bees, researchers have completely designed prior versions to make these magnitudes better than their predecessors. So we're seeing swarms of tiny robots, swarms of ants. So swarm technology is making immense strides. Eventually, those immense strides are going to look like this. Swarm of bees, a school of fish. Those are all going to be drones, mechanized drones, controlled by an adversary, but through AI, decentralized learning on the battlefield. So again, we've mentioned this many times. What if this is coming after you? What chance do you have? You don't have much of a chance at all, and conventional weapons have zero chance. You and I have zero chance. So what are the defenses against this? Well, likely another swarm of drones like this. The problem is, what we saw before, how many of these drones have been manufactured? How many can you have? You have to have a lot to have this. So we're not there yet. But that's where technology is trending, and it's trending very quickly. We're going to get there very quickly. But the key missing ingredient in all of this is we continue to see these designs improve. We continue to see this technology move forward, is the ability to build these quickly, manufacture these quickly at scale. And that's why we've been talking about molecular manufacturing as the key technology, because we're seeing a number of nations. We're seeing the United States, we're seeing China, Russia, others developing AI, developing these types of drones and drone swarms. And that in and of itself is transforming the battlefield. We see it in Ukraine, Russia, Ukraine. We see it with Israel, Iran, and Israel, Hezbollah, Israel, Hamas. We're seeing this all over the place. But really what's going to transform the battlefield for certain, and I believe ultimately fulfill Bible prophecy, is the ability to manufacture these en masse at great scale on the battlefield in real time. And so whoever achieves molecular manufacturing first has a outsized advantage. And they will be able to do that, and they will be able to create mechanized swarms like the swarm of bees in real time and overwhelm their enemies. Wave after wave after wave of these can be sent at the enemy. And as we just saw, there's the ability to create biomimetic fish drones. So if you can manufacture at scale, at mass, you can fill the world's oceans with drones, and you can find the nuclear submarines. You can disable those nuclear submarines. So mutual assured destruction will come to an end, and whoever has this advantage not only will have the opportunity to conquer the world, but we've talked about before, certainly will. Because the alternative to conquering the world and establishing a global empire is to allow a competitor to also achieve this breakthrough in technology and mass scale, and being able to manufacture at scale mass millions, billions, trillions of drones operating in AI-controlled swarms. That creates a very volatile, unstable arms race that ultimately would lead to the annihilation of humanity. So faced with that prospect, I can't imagine that anyone who does not create this does not use it to conquer the world, whether their intent is for good or evil or what they think it is. They're going to use it to conquer the world. And guys, that will certainly fulfill Bible prophecy, because we read in the book of Revelation chapter 13 that the Antichrist controls every people, nation, language, and tribe. There's one man in control of the entire world. So guys, all of this is coming. We can see this developing right before our eyes. And guys, that should fill you with absolute hope for the future, because this means Jesus is coming back. We see all the signs Jesus and the prophets said to look for. Jesus said, when you begin to see all these things take place, know that I am near. I'm right at the door. Guys, we are on the cusp, and just a few years ahead of seeing this type of technology. I don't know exactly when it will happen. Could it happen next week? Maybe so. Will it happen in the next 20 years? Almost certainly so. And when it does, we see fulfilled Bible prophecy, at least in my opinion. And that means Jesus is coming back. That should fill you with an immense sense of hope and joy if you know Jesus. It should also fill you with a sense of urgency to share the gospel with as many people as possible. So make sure that you're doing that. And guys, if you're out there watching and you don't know Jesus, looking at something like this and thinking a mechanized swarm of bees, that should fill you with a sense of dread and fear. And, you can eliminate that fear. You can have a peace that surpasses all understanding through a relationship with Jesus Christ. But more important, if you really understood your position, if you don't know Jesus Christ, well, then you would be filled with dread and fear, because the Bible tells us that we're all sinners. We've all fallen short of God's standard of perfection. And the wages of sin is death, meaning our destination, the destination of everyone who does not know Jesus and does not have a born-again, saving grace relationship with Jesus, their destination is hell, eternal separation from God once we depart this earth, once we pass away. But guys, the good news is that while we were still sinners, Jesus Christ, he came to this earth, he lived a perfect sinless life, and he died on the cross in our place. He shed his blood as payment for our sin. He paid the price, he paid the penalty for us so that we wouldn't have to suffer eternity in hell. Instead, we would be reconciled with God and spend eternity with him in heaven. Guys, that is fantastic news. So if you don't know Jesus, I encourage you, invite him into your life today. If you already know Jesus, you should be out there telling others about the hope you have in Jesus Christ. So guys, let me know what you think. Again, tonight, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, we have the Prophecy Roundtable. We're going to be talking about issues just like what we just talked about. The rise of AI, transhumanism, technocracy, all of these things we see happening around us that I believe are either precursors to the fulfillment of Bible prophecy, or they are flashing signs pointing to the soon fulfillment of those prophecies. And all that tells us Jesus is coming back. So make sure to check this out later tonight. Again, if you missed this live, then you can watch the recording anytime thereafter. So let me know what you think. Leave your comments below, and God willing, I will see you on Friday.